Hello everyone, welcome once again. Today we are going to discuss the types of demand. This is a topic of microeconomics. Though we have already understood what is demand and what is the concept of demand, what is law of demand and what are the determinants of demand. But today we are going to discuss what are the various types of demand. So let's begin with today's lecture. There are various types of demand that we'll be discussing in the latter part of the video, that is individual and market demand, total market demand and market segment demand, derived demand and direct demand, industry demand and company demand, short run and long run demand, price demand, income demand, and cross demand. These are the types of demand that we are going to discuss in the video. So without any delay, let's begin with each of the topic individually. So beginning with the very first thing, that is individual demand and market demand. When we talk about the demand of a product by a consumer, by an individual consumer, then it is termed as an individual demand. But when we talk about the demand of a commodity by the consumers, suppose there is a commodity which is preferred and liked by consumer A. This is an individual demand, but when the same commodity is liked by consumer A, B, C, and D, then it is a market demand. So it says it refers to the demand for a product by a single consumer, and market demand, it refers to the demand for a product by all the consumers in the market. The demand curve for individual demand is relatively steeper, and that for the market demand is relatively flatter because it talks about the entire consumers. It represents various quantities of a particular commodity. Individual demand talks about a particular commodity that a consumer is willing to purchase at different possible prices that depends upon his purchasing capacity. And here it represents various quantities of a particular commodity that all consumers in the market are willing to purchase at different possible prices. So when we talk about an individual consumer and his choices and preferences, it is a market demand. Sorry, it is an individual demand. And when we talk about the consumers, all the consumers in an economy, then it refers to the market demand. So this is the difference between the two. Coming on to the next, here we are going to read out what is total market demand and what is market segment demand. When the total demand, when the demand of a commodity is done by the entire consumers in the market, it is total demand. But when the commodity is demanded by a particular segment or section of the society, then it is known as a market segment demand. So it says the total market demand for a product refers to total market demand. The entire demand for a commodity in a market is referred as market demand. Example, demand for vanilla ice cream in India. On the other hand, market segments, demand arising from different segments of the market refers to demand by market segment. Example, demand for vanilla ice cream in Rajasthan or demand for vanilla ice cream by women. When we talk about a particular segment or a section, then it is a market demand, market segment demand. But when we talk about the entire region, the entire market, then it is known as total market demand. Coming on to the next one, direct and derived demand. Direct demand is when a commodity is demanded directly for your own consumption, for your own choice, then it is a direct demand. But what is a derived demand? Derived demand when a commodity or a thing is required as a raw material or as an intermediary good for getting a finished good. So here it says, when a commodity is demanded for its own sake by the final consumer, it is known as consumer goods, all household items, and its demand is direct demand. Example, FMCG products and all household items, TV, refrigerator, where whatever you are asking for your own, whatever you are consuming for your own, it is a direct demand. Derived demand, when a commodity is demanded for using it either as a raw material or as an intermediary for value addition in any other good or in same good, is known as capital good, and its demand is derived demand. Example, machineries. When a thing is required as an intermediary or as a raw material for getting a finished good, it is known as a derived demand. Next, see, firm demand and industry demand. Firm demand is often recognized or referred as company demand. So what happens in firm demand? When we are talking about the products of a particular company, specifically about a particular company, then it's a firm demand. But when we are talking about the particular commodity from any company, when we're talking about whole lot of products of any company, then it is a individual demand. So it says firm demand represents the demand for products of a single company. Example, demand for Sony television, Colgate toothpaste. When you are specific with the company, then it's a firm demand. Industry demand refers to the demand of an industry Just like demand for TVs and demand for toothpaste, be it from any company. So this is the difference between the firm and industry demand. Next comes short run demand and long run demand. Short run demand, what happens when the change in the demand responses immediately? When with the change in the price, the change in the demand can be witnessed very easily. Long term demand, what happens? It takes time and it's more feasible. It adjusts with the situation. Short-term demand is the demand with its immediate reaction to price change, income fluctuation, and so on. In short-term demand, what happens? With the change in the price, the demand for the commodity immediately changes. In the long run demand is that demand which will ultimately exist as a result of the changes in pricing, promotion, or product improvement after enough time is allowed to let the market adjust itself to the given solution. Long term demand, what happened? It gives time to the changes and it adjusts accordingly. Whereas when the immediate changes, when the changes are taking place and to it, the reactions are taking place immediately, it is known as short run demand. Now coming to the price demand, when the change in demand takes place due to change in the price of the good, it is known as price demand. When price is the only factor that brings about the change in the demand for a commodity, it is known as price demand. Income demand, as the name suggests, when the change in the income is the reason for the change in the demand for the product. Suppose if a consumer is earning low, so his demand for the commodity, he is preferring something which is of an inferior quality, but with an increase in his income, the choice he is going to have now is for a better quality. So this is how when the income change brings about the change in the demand, this is known as income demand. Next comes the last one is cross demand, when the change in demand takes place due to the change in the price of the other one. When the change in one of the commodity is affected by the change in the price of its related good, this is known as cross demand. By the name it suggests cross, it means the change in the one brings about the impact on the other one. It says when the change in demand takes place due to change in the price of related good, it is known as cross demand. These are some of the types of demand which we are going to find anywhere while studying microeconomics. So I thought this is the right thing to explain that what are the various types of demand and how they are affecting the entire economy, how they are recognized as individual or a total demand, short run or long run demand. So this is the classification. I hope this must be clear to each one of you. In case of any query or doubt, please do feel free to let me know. I'm here to help you out. So that's all for the day from my side. Keep smiling, keep studying, and keep learning. God